If you haven't watched any of the Wrestling Independents yet, or if you have, this is easily one of our most interesting guests. And you're going to say to yourself, Mike, you say that a lot. But I have a question for you. How many of you started to train wrestling when you were 13, retire at 19, and then 14 years later, you get a phone call that someone wants to make a TV show about your life? So take a minute, listen to Kayla Sparks coming up next on the Wrestling Independent. Find out about her new series, Against the Rope, debuting on Hulu and Amazon Prime soon.
None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Welcome everyone. It's Mike back with the Wrestling Independent. Now, one of the things that I've promised to is I promised to bring the most interesting people that I can on the show. We have had the secretary for the mayor of Philadelphia on the show. We have had Mr. Ken Anderson. We've had Mick Foley. And now we have probably someone you're going to be hearing about very soon because they have a lot that's on the back burner right now. Kayla Sparks. Kayla, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You have quite a packed schedule right now. So the fact that you kind of got this fit in. So within the past few weeks, you've been on national television a few times. You are ready to have a movie come out on multiple platforms. So how does it feel to be Kayla Sparks right now? First question, how does that feel?
Oh my gosh, it's awesome. Like it's a dream come true, everything that's happening right now. Like I can't even explain it, like all these amazing things that are happening.
So for those that don't know, you have it's a new movie coming out, right? First, let's hit that.
Series.
It's a TV series,
Yeah.
Against the Ropes, and it's about your life. And what platforms is it going to be on?
It's going to premiere on Amazon Prime and Hulu and also Rev TV.
So yeah, and this is about Kayla Sparks. Now, I don't want to give everything away, but just talking to you, we're going to kind of get some of the story. So let's talk a little bit about, okay, normally I ask people, how did they get into pro wrestling and when they decided? So what was that first thing that kind of drew you in? Let's go there.
I was a huge fan since I was 3 years old. I know it's really young, but Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior were my favorites, when I was like a little girl, and that's what it just drew me into it, like the bigger than life like characters, and I just loved it. And then I just always been a fan since I was a kid, and I grew up watching, my favorites were Undertaker and Sting and and China. Those were big influences for me. And I just decided, when I was 13 years old, there was a local wrestling school in the area and called 24/7 Wrestling. And, my parents were really against it because, that's really young to start wrestling. But I started when I was 13 and, I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, so that's kind of the thing that separates you from just about most people in pro wrestling, except for like, the Guerreros and people like that, is you started when you were 13 years old. And I can't imagine a 13-year-old talking their parent into how did that work?
There was a lot of pushback. Like, I mean, like my parents were really against it, but, they they had to sign the papers like that said that it was okay for, their, minor to be wrestling. But I had to do a lot of convincing because this was always my dream, since I was 3 years old. So, but yeah, it was frustrating. There was a lot of pushback, but especially with my dad. But my mom came around, and actually, I didn't have a car back then, so to travel to shows eventually, my mom and I used to take road trips and like 15, 16, and I had a part-time job at the mall. Like I just paid for like my gas and like my cell phone back then, but those were the days.
And So, how does it work being a 13-year-old in the business
Y-
going to shows? Because I want
Yeah.
to say I started talking to wrestlers. I had an old show way back when it was kind of this little nothing show, but I remember going to shows with a young Briscoe brothers and watching their parents like bring them the shows and watch from the back row.
Mhm.
When they first, was that kind of the same thing with you? How were they with watching you wrestle?
Yeah, like so my mom went to my shows and she supported me with my wrestling. My dad didn't go because he was really against it, but yeah, it was just like, my mom, she they knew I watched wrestling since I was a kid, so they knew it was really important to me. But she was scared though when she saw me in the ring. But you know, I did end up getting a concussion, which unfortunately I had to stop wrestling when I was like 19 or so. So I wrestled for about like 6 years, and then that was when I had my first like big injury, concussion, and then unfortunately I had to stop, which made me really sad. But
And then what was that thing that kind of drew you back into it? Because I did see that you took a
yeah,
few years off. I wasn't sure what you were.
yeah.
So what kind of drew you back into it?
I guess a lot can happen in 14 years. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
been a while, but I did the adult thing. Like, I have a career on the side, and I owned a home and did all the adult things. But I was always a fan of wrestling, and I never stopped watching it. Even though I couldn't, actually wrestle in the ring, which made me sad. But I always watched it on TV and kept in touch with it. But actually, what drew me into it was, when my friend Shane, he approached me about the TV series, and he owns New Light Media Films, it's called, and we used to wrestle back in the day when we were teenagers, and he heard me do this podcast, which that was out of the blue too, because it was, like I said, it was 14 years since I was like even asked to do anything wrestling related. So it was a podcast for the Shining Wizards, and
Okay.
that was back in January. And my friend Shane heard it. He's like, "Hey, your story is inspiring. I've been thinking about doing a TV series for wrestling related, and would you be interested?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" So that's kind of how it started. And then, when I was the executive producer for the project, and when we got to pick the cast and the crew, when I was in the ring with them, showing them how to do the moves and stuff, it just literally it sparked, pun intended, like the fire, like to really like get back in there and like, oh, I can, you know what, I can do this again. So that's kind of what got me into it. And then I took a couple bumps, and I'm like, you know what, my head's okay, so let's just go with it. And it just took off ever since.
And that's really cool. Now, a little bit about you is also one of the thing that the series covers is being growing up in a household
Yeah.
are kind of becoming an icon almost for the LGBTQ community with all the work
Oh
that
wow.
you're doing.
Yeah.
So, what was it like telling that side of the story for it?
That was tough. Like, as you know, like my story. So I grew up in a very, religious, homophobic household. So I never, I didn't come out till I was in my 20s, and that was just a tough time for me. But I think it's important now, especially nowadays. Like, it's more accepting than it was back then. But for me, it was just really hard because, you want your parents' acceptance and you want your family's acceptance, but um, I just struggled with that since I was really young when I knew, but I just never came out to like my friends or family about it. So yeah, the TV series you'll definitely see like the struggles like I had to go through, and um, but it's important that now that I'm out and that anybody watching it, I hope that, like, as far as like the LGBTQ community, that if they're afraid to come out, or if they're afraid of like, what will happen if they do, like if, family or friends or people that don't support them, that there's always someone that will listen and support, um, But yeah, it's important to just always like be true to yourself. Like that's what I've taken from all of this is that life's too short, like not to be happy and I'm glad I just have my friends and family to support me now. Um but yeah, some of the scenes are really tough to watch and like relive because it was like part of my life. So like you'll see in the TV show like there's parts in there that are tough to watch, but those are important for people to see, like, that despite the setbacks and stuff I had to go through, that I still pushed through and was myself. And I'm proud, I'm proud of who I am.
And
So,
I just want to say on a personal note,
yeah.
it my so my father passed away last year
Oh,
during the time of COVID, but one of the things about my father is he was gay, even living with his boyfriend, and even till the day he passed away, they never came out.
oh, wow.
And it's one of the positive things about that is now his boyfriend, his I would say his widow, because they were together for almost 30 years, has
Mhm.
finally started being able to talk about some of that story.
Yeah.
So for someone that has seen firsthand the struggle that someone can go through, because that was my dad's story. He was raised in a very ultra Catholic family. He was raised in
Yeah.
a family where you just didn't talk about that.
Right.
And so I thank people like you for having the courage to tell these stories, because I think it's super important, especially watching my child Alex go through their journey with everything that they have going on. So I just want to say thank you for that,
Oh,
as
thank you.
as a
Yeah.
father and a son. So
Yeah. That means a lot to me. Yeah.
now, on top of that, you are also very active on the wrestling scene. We kind of touched on it. You've just done a couple AEW darks, um, and you've had some tremendous matches. Rio, I mean, how can you not love the chance to step in the ring with Rio? She's
I know.
a
She
tremendous
was
athlete.
awesome. Yeah. I know it. Yeah, the first AEW Women's Champion. I mean, you can't get any better than that opportunity. Which I was so excited they invited me back. That was in Boston, and the crowd was there was just so much energy, and like I was just so excited to be there again. Like, let alone just it's just I'm just so happy, just living the dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you were actually there for two big nights. You were there for the Boston. You were there
Right.
for the
Yeah.
Arthur Ashe Stadium. I mean, how do
Yeah.
you go from what's that feeling to be there on a night like that? Because that was a
Yeah.
game shifting night.
That really was. Oh my gosh. And like I just thinking about it, I'm still pinching myself. Like I still can't believe like that I was there in front of 20,000 fans. Like you just it's you can't even like put it into words. Like I'm still speechless like just thinking about it, talking about it. But I was just so proud to be there and like being from New York and Thunder Rosa, like she's like the greatest like wrestler today. So to have an
She
opportunity to wrestle her, yeah.
Well, I'm just going to put out there in the
Yeah.
ether. She for me is the get interview. I mean, she's the one that if I could pick one person to interview,
Oh,
it's Thunder Rosa, because I'm just such a huge fan.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely. Oh my gosh, I'll tell her like, you know what, get on his show. I'll let her know. But yeah, she's so down to earth. Like she's so awesome. Like I just can't believe like her and Brian. Like they've been so good to me and like they treat me like family and like I just love them both so much. Like they gave me an opportunity of a lifetime. Like I'll never forget it. Like out of all the people, like they told me like, you know what, you deserve it. This is your dream. And you know what, just go out there and be confident. And, you know, that's what I did. And I couldn't believe like, I just couldn't believe that I was there that night. And
and
Dustin Rhodes was a really huge, like, he's a big mentor for me because he was backstage during all of this and, really giving me the guidance I needed. And he was really right there with me through the whole way. And he actually he said to me, I felt like I feel like my life is a movie right now. Like besides the TV series, like I just feel like everything just happened so quick, like since I got back on the wrestling scene, and it just like I just can't. I'm so like blessed and happy that all these opportunities are coming now, and so yeah, Dustin was backstage and he said to me, he's like, "Are you scared?" And I said, "No, no, I'm not." And he's like, are you are you nervous?" Or I said, "You know, a little bit, but good nerves." And he's like, "Good." He's like, "Go." He's like, "You're gonna kill it out there." He's like, "You got this." And that's what really like hyped me up. And it was just awesome. Yeah.
And I love hearing the stories about the positive environment and
Yeah.
backstage and the way that everybody's supportive. And not only so, and for people that don't know, on top of knowing Thunder Rosa through AEW, you've been wrestling with Mission Pro Wrestling. I mean, you're wrestling with, I would say, two of the top female independent wrestling promotions. We're going to talk about Capital Championship Wrestling in a minute because I love them. They got us in
Yeah.
contact, and they're such a great organization. But also, let's touch on. I know you have a history with Mission Pro. I've seen
Mhm.
you. I know that you seem to be friends with the Renegade Twins, and they've won the
Yeah.
championship titles for both of them. So
Yeah,
why
I'm
don't you
so
tell me a
fortunate.
little bit about Mission Pro and a little bit about that? Right.
Yeah, the Mission Pro, oh my gosh, like the environment there is just so different. Like everyone is just really like everyone's out for each other and like wanting like what's best for the show and like helping each other out. Like that's what it's all about. Like it's all about making everyone feel comfortable and like just everyone looks out for each other. It's really nice. I love going there. It's like family there when you go, and I just had such a great time when they invited me. It was my first time going to Texas, to San Antonio, and I got to face the Woad, which I survived. You know, but it was just amazing. Like I'll never forget my first experience there, and I'm actually coming back to their next show next month.
Yeah, I saw that December
Yeah,
11th, right?
what's that? Oh yeah, yeah, yep, yep, yeah. So I'm excited for that opportunity again, and you know the Renegades you mentioned, they're there, and ever since I saw them, I was just like, oh my gosh, you girls they're just so like nice, genuine people, and you know, like when you just see someone and they have it, I was like, you girls definitely have it. Like you need to get signed like right away. Like you girls are awesome. But yeah, everyone's just really awesome there at Mission Pro, and yeah.
Now, Capital Championship Wrestling, obviously, like I said, they were able to get me the opportunity to chance to talk with you, and they've got a lot coming up on the horizon too, because they're in the middle of this championship tournament. And I know that they have the finals for that coming up. How did you get in contact with them? How did you what do you have going on with them?
So yeah, I love going there. That they're such amazing people there at Capital Championship Wrestling. So I reached out to them, and the first show I had there, you know, I did wrestle the Renegade Twins, but I lost, but that's okay. Then I had another match with Leda Lennox. That was fun, and it's a great atmosphere once again. Like it's really good to support women's wrestling, and I think it's really important um, nowadays. Like and they put on such a great you know, a lot of the things that I notice like with other promotions that CCW makes stands them apart is they really are focused on like the storytelling, and I think that sometimes it gets lost out there with you know with wrestling, but it's nice to see that they really care and that it's a great definitely a great promotion to watch out for, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
That's
Yeah.
that's great. And how so one of my questions is so you were in wrestling for a while, you got out when you were 19, you just
Mhm.
decided to get back in with all this going on. What ways have you seen the business change in that chunk of time?
Oh, oh my
Because
gosh, yeah.
I
Uh,
know when I was younger, and when I was able to talk to some people, it was very different for
yeah,
women.
it was very different actually. I mean, so much has changed. I mean, when I was wrestling, that was in the early 2000s, and like, you know, women's wrestling wasn't as respected as it is now. So that was a struggle. And like, I mean, I feel like there's a lot more, women empowerment now versus back then. Like, I feel like, not to say anyone, like, I think there was just more competition. I mean, there's always going to be competition, but I feel like
Hmm.
now it's more women are like empowering other women, and I like that because I'm all about girl power and stuff. So I think that's nice now. And just back then, yeah, it was just the locker room was a totally different atmosphere. But now I feel like, um, at least for me, like the wrestling shows that I work for, the locker rooms are a lot more like laid back, and they're um, everyone looks out for each other, which is it's nice to see that now. So
Well,
yeah,
it,
a lot
it's
has changed.
it. In my view, and again, this is just from an outsider looking in,
Yeah,
is now the women aren't just attractions. It's not like,
right,
a dozen women trying to fight for two spots. It's
right.
now, a dozen women and there's a dozen spots.
Hmm.
And I think that's such a great change in the business.
Oh yeah,
And
I totally agree. Yeah, yeah, more
now
opportunities now.
I don't want to hold you too long, because I know you've got a lot going on. I'm sure you
Oh,
need
you're
some
fine.
rest.
Yeah, yeah,
um, One of my favorite things to ask everybody. So you've been on this long journey. You paused. You had a career. You're kind of on your way back in. So let's just say you have a chance for 2 seconds to go back in the ether of time. What do you tell 13-year-old Kayla Sparks, who's begging mom and dad to go to a wrestling school? What do you tell her about what you're about to go through and
oh
experience?
my gosh, that you were you were right to stay focused and to not give up on your dream, and I'm proud of you that that you stuck with it, even though you got injured down the line, but you still, you never gave up. And that's what's important is that so many people like have dreams and, goals and things like that, but to actually like go for it, and that takes a lot of sacrifice and like hard work and all that. And because there were times where I didn't believe in myself, like can I really get back into it? Is am I, you know, is this really gonna work out? But I just always believed in myself, and I pushed through, and like now I'm here, and I I'm so blessed to like have all these opportunities that I have now. So to look back at the 13-year-old Kayla Sparks, she would be super proud of where she's at today. So,
And
yeah.
I think that it's been tremendous. And it's great to see you kind of being able to step in and having a chance to talk with you as like you're ready
Yeah.
to kind of make some more moves.
Yeah.
What are you hoping your 2022 looks like and going forward?
Oh my gosh, just um keep wrestling and keep working hard, and just you know and just keep doing what I'm doing, keep wrestling at different promotions and getting opportunities. And I'm hoping like, the AEW thing still works out, and like they're they're awesome there. I love them, and like, WWE has always been my dream too. So anything can happen, I guess, for 2022. Like just gonna keep working hard and chasing after my dreams.
So, as a kid who grew up in the 90s, or I was a teenager in the 90s,
Yeah.
and one of my friends I grew up with, Joe Mealy, would be upset if I didn't ask you this. Now that you're kind of in this new position, you have some friends in the business, did are you any closer to being able to talk to a Spice Girl?
Oh my gosh. I
Now
would
that
love I
WWE,
haven't
just it seemed like they a couple people bumped into a few.
yeah.
And
Actually, I have a friend, because you know me, I love the Spice Girls. Like I never,
yes,
I'm a
Spice
huge fan of
Ranger, all
that.
that.
The
Yeah.
Spice Ranger, yeah. I haven't met them, any of them yet, but I would love to. Hopefully, one day get the opportunity to meet them. I have a friend that lives in England actually, and he's always. It's so funny. His name's Leo. He's always meeting them and stuff, and like that's one of my bucket list things to do is actually go to England one day and be like, hey, are we gonna meet the Spice Girl? Am I gonna meet like the Spice Girl or anything? Like, yeah, that's one of my bucket lists for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was it was funny because just I remember when I was coming up and the Spice Girls were huge, and that's also when the Attitude Era was huge. And me and my skater friends at the time were both like wearing grunge WWE or WWF at the time t-shirts while listening to the Spice Girls.
Oh my God, I love it. That sounds like me. I was doing the same thing. Actually, oh my gosh, there's a picture of me where I have an NWO Wolfpack shirt on and I'm doing the Spice Girl, like Girl Power with the Spice World poster in the background. Yeah, it was wrestling and Spice Girls for me. I don't, it's what a strange mix, but
Hey, and
yeah.
you want to know what? Whatever makes you happy, and that's one of the things I love about watching you is you just seem like you're so happy and you're so
Oh yeah.
excited about life right now.
That's what, you know what, that's what life's about. Like why it's, life's too short, but not to be happy. Like I just, you know what, it's just happiness is a choice, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things like to be like you could be upset about or negative about, but like I'm just always like, I know everyone tells me that, like, do you ever not smile or like but yeah, life's too short, to be anything but not happy, so might as well be, happy and positive and stuff.
Well, and that's the kind of thing that loves making fans and people root for you is
Yeah.
you've
Aw.
been through some hard stuff. You
Yeah.
climbed out of it on your own.
Yeah.
You are becoming the person that you want to be. You have, it seems like you're setting goals and meeting them and you're doing all this great stuff. And as, like I said, personally, I wish you all the best. I honestly thank you for coming on.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah.
for AEW, it was the Boston episode, and you wrestled Rio. And who did you wrestle when you were in Arthur Ashe?
Thunder Rosa.
Thunder Rosa. So we're going to make sure, if you haven't watched those, they're on YouTube. Get a chance, watch yourself some Kayla Sparks. And trust me, you're going to become a huge fan in just a matter of minutes. Kayla, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you,
I
Mike.
can't wait to see what we have coming down the line from you soon.
Oh, thank you so much. I wish you the best. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I love it.
And do you know about when your premiere dates are for the series?
I don't have a date. Actually, everyone's been asking me. It's like we're just in the final stages of like trying to get it on, the streaming services. So, but keep an eye on my social media stuff to see a
So
date.
keep an eye on the social media, and obviously for the 100 followers that I have, I'll tweet it out for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right,
have a great day.
You too,
Bye-bye.
Mike.
My name is Mike, and I want to say thank you for listening to or watching that episode of The Wrestling Independent. Please give us a like, share, and subscribe, and where you can, leave a 5-star review. Please, we're always looking for feedback, so give us an email at thewrestlingindependent@gmail.com.